Good morning. It is Wednesday, February the 17th, and this is The Drill. Thank you. And the prayer of the day. Understand my power and authority. Let's see here. I use ordinary people to accomplish my purposes. Your ability to overcome in spiritual warfare comes from my power and authority. Do not have your faith or how you feel. Do not base your faith on how you feel. Base your faith on my word. I have given you the legal right to use the name of my Son, Jesus. His name is above every other name. Authority in his name is recognized by the enemy. You will be able to cast out demons in his name. You can bind the works of darkness in his name. Through his name and in the power you will receive from my Holy Spirit, you will be able to do exceedingly abundantly according to the power that operates through you. Fear not. Prepare to engage the enemy. Prayer declaration. Father, though your power and authority, or through your power and authority, I will confront the power of darkness. In your Son's name, I will defeat Satan and all his demonic warriors. You have given me the ability to endure and withstand hardship, adversity, and stress. I will be persistent in dealing with the enemy, and because of who I am in you, I will be victorious. So welcome to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there. I'm Ron, and I'm the only true conservative in the United States today. So what I was thinking about here this morning, listening to Hugh-Hewitt, as always, but what I was thinking about was a time when I was dealing with my doctor, my doctor. Okay, so, and I was thinking about how it was that we were communicating with one another. There was a particular procedure that the doctor wanted me to undergo, and initially I was agreeable to this particular procedure, but I backed out pretty much at the last minute or last second. And I backed out because I was surprised at that this procedure was much more involved, much more invasive than the doctor had led me to believe. And we'd had sat down and had a conversation about this procedure, and that doctor had told me that I was going to be undergoing propofol, and I've learned for next time that I will. When I hear that, I'm going to have to start asking a whole lot of questions. But the point is, the doctor didn't explain why I need to have to be under the influence of a hypnotic to undergo what I assumed was a fairly routine procedure. And it occurred to me that the reason that the doctor didn't do that, and it occurred to me almost immediately, at least subconsciously, was manipulation. That the doctor was playing a deterministic game, and that furthermore that the doctor assumed that he had the right to conduct this particular procedure. So two issues here: determinism and fantasy rights. Determinism is the contradiction that we have no free will. It is an obvious contradiction, and so it is used in order to rationalize Marxism. Determinism, materialism, skepticism, all of them are used to rationalize Marxism, just as simple. So determinism then in this particular case applies where he starts thinking, well, if I tell Ron, give Ron details about the procedure, he may balk. I don't want him to balk, so I won't give him those details. It's none of his business what my reaction or response is going to be. His only job is to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and let the chips fall where they may. He tells me the whole complete story, exactly what's going to happen, how, when, where, why, and lets me make the decision. Because it's also there's a legal concept in there. It's called informed consent. If he deceives me and I undergo a particular procedure and I was not fully informed as to what the procedure was about, then I didn't have what is known as informed consent. If I'm damaged, then I have the basis for filing a claim against him and or his insurance company. Second thing, why is he doing all of this? Because also he thinks that he has the right to perform this procedure. There's too many people wandering around the world, or this country actually, believing that they have the right to do whatever the hell they want to. There's a difference between having a right, say a mandate, and having freedom. You're free to say whatever you want as long as you're willing to accept the consequences. But that doesn't mean you have a right to be shielded from those consequences, for instance. Okay? Police officers, another way of putting it too, this is a little bit more clear, police officers wander around thinking they have the right to do the things they do. They have the right to question you. They have the right to pull you over. They have the right to serve a warrant. They have the right to arrest you. That prosecutors think that they have the right to indict you, the right to prosecute you, the right to a conviction. No such thing exists. The government has no rights. Not today, not 200 years ago, not 200 years from now. It's just that simple. And then as far as the doctor is concerned, and we get this from the left, because the left wants to turn everything into a right. We have the right to do this. You have the poor have the right to this. The homeless have a right to that. No, they don't. Opportunity perhaps or whatever, but they don't have a right. Because what the right means, and let's use the police again as an example, this is why the police officer in Minnesota shot that guy in the back, shot him 6-7 times in the back when he was resisting arrest or the warrant, whatever the hell they were doing. He was walking away. Guy was walking away, going to his car. And the police officer just shot him in the back. Boom, 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 boom. No, you don't do that. The guy doesn't want to cooperate. You walk away. You simply walk away. Go out if you have to. Get a SWAT team. Surround his house. You've already got his license plate number. You already probably got his address. You've had his license, driver's license, all that stuff. And you can go to his house later, get a SWAT team, and do it that way. The only way it makes sense to shoot somebody in the back is if you're trying to exercise a right. But since the government has no right, since the police department is part of the government, no. Sorry. Okay, and it's the same thing if the officer pulls me over and says to do certain things, and I fail to obey his, quote, lawful order, unquote, doesn't mean that he gets to shoot me. Doesn't get to do it. And he knows it because he'll rationalize his behavior by saying, oh, I thought he was going for a gun. I thought he was going for a weapon. It was self-defense. No, it wasn't. What it really was is he told me what to do. I refused to do it, so he decides he's going to punish me. The death penalty for disobeying a, quote, lawful order, unquote. Wrong answer. Again, the government has no rights. So you go up to the guy in the car and you say, do this or don't do that or whatever. He doesn't want to participate. You back off. Back off, maybe get a SWAT team or whatever. Or again, if you have his name and address, you approach him, you go to his house. Okay, but you back off and you try again some other day. This idea that, where you keep going forward, the private citizen puts up a little bit of resistance, so you get to go forward. You get to do whatever is within your power to overcome that resistance is wrong. You don't have that right. You're acting as an agent of the government. You have no rights. That's all there is to it. Okay? So, and that's what happens with the doctor. The doctor thinks he has a right to do this procedure, so therefore it is perfectly acceptable for him to, in essence, lie to me, and lie by omission, by leaving things out, by not telling me the whole story about this particular procedure. And you'll find that in life, wherever you go, that there are people that are going to feel free to just lie to you. Usually lying by omission, leaving certain pieces of information out that they think will cause you to change your mind, to balk, to give a response to them that they don't want. Okay? The rights that we have as individuals legally are listed in the Constitution, the first 10 amendments to the Constitution: the right to speak, the right to peaceably assemble, etc., etc. So if it's not in there, that's the guideline. If it's not in there, then there's a good chance it's not a right. Maybe an opportunity. It may be fall under some other, an expectation. There's no right to privacy. That's absolutely correct. There is, however, expectations of privacy, reasonable and unreasonable, but not a right to privacy. I don't get to incarcerate or put in jail somebody that violates my privacy. I could do it for trespassing, but not for violating my privacy. Anyways, that's where the doctor again comes in, thinking he's got a right, so he's going to do whatever it takes to get me to undergo that procedure. He has no such rights. So when you're listening, the point here to the left, when they're talking to you on television, when they're talking to you on the radio, when they're talking to you on a news program, CNN, MSNBC, whatever, and you hear them saying the right to this or this right or that right or the other right, and none of those sound like they're coming from the Constitution, then more than likely they're fictional, fantasy rights. Okay, so the true conservative needs to understand that. What is the difference between a right and an opportunity or anything else? And understand when you're in a situation where somebody has a right and when they don't. The police officer, properly considered, the deal with the police officers is that an officer considered as an individual has the right to self-defense, but considered as an agent of the law, as an agent of the government, has no rights. Does not have the right to serve the warrant. Does have a right to self-defense, and that's what they usually end up doing. In the process of serving the warrant, they engage in combat, very often deadly, and then instead of saying, well, I did it because I have a right to serve the warrant, they say, oh, well, I have a right to self-defense. But you wouldn't be in a position where you had to defend yourself if you simply retreated. When you get resistance, retreat first. And there's some laws in California that are being changed, and I think for the better. It's being changed by the left, so a lot of reactionaries, people that call themselves conservative but are reactionaries, are reacting negatively to it, saying, no, it's no good. Why? Simply because a lefty came up with the idea. But again, the idea that a police officer, if you encounter resistance, first thing you have to do is retreat. So making it none of this cowboy stuff, because right now it's ridiculous. The first bit of resistance, out comes the gun. No, wrong answer. So, but anyways, this whole rights thing is way out of control. Everybody thinks they have the right to everything all the time, and it's just not true. It is false. What you have to do is look at things from a moral standpoint. I do what I know to be right and correct in the situation, and then you let the chips fall where they may. So listen to Hugh-Hewitt, and he's talking to one of the former This is the former HUD secretary for President Trump. And so anyways, one of the things that they were getting at was, problems in our society, which is always a flag for me. When anybody's talking about our society, that's a problem. That little bell in my head goes off. The other thing he's talking about with him is he says that there's some kind of a rift in the Republican Party, and where do we go from here kind of a situation. This is Hugh-Hewitt claiming that as conservatives, we all have the automatic obligation to heal the rift in the Republican Party, and that the only way to do that is to go ahead and concede the election and concede that it was won fair and square. So he asked the former HUD secretary, do you agree with that? Because again, he's asking leading questions because he's a moron lawyer who doesn't know how to live his life other than through the prism of being a lawyer, being an asshole lawyer. So he cross-examines everybody he meets. And anyway, so he asks who, much to his credit, refused to be intimidated. Because it's intimidating when somebody asks you a leading question and trying to get you. The left loves to do that. They love to ask you leading questions. You are this, right? You do care, right? That kind of thing. And it's very intimidating. Much to his credit, the former HUD secretary refused to be intimidated. He says, well, I don't know about the fair and square part. And then, of course, Hugh-Hewitt has to try to set him straight and blather on. But don't allow yourself to be intimidated by anybody. It's not just the left that wants to intimidate you. It is the right as well. The right is now in a lot of people on the right, faux conservatives, reactionaries, and traditionalists that want you to pass a litmus test, a loyalty test. I see it every day on Instagram. There's various accounts that I subscribe to that keep asking over and over again. I'm deleting them as I go because I'm getting sick of it. It's the only thing they do. The only thing that these accounts do is ask, do you still stand with Trump? Or they'll say, they'll show a picture of Trump. Do you still stand with this man? That kind of thing. That's all I do, and I'm assuming really that what they're doing is they're being cynical and they're doing it just for likes. But anyways, I'm deleting those as I go along. Who you support politically is nobody's business. And it is vitally important that you get that through your head because one of the things that the left wants to do is, again, disabuse you of the idea that you have any reasonable expectation of privacy. And in part, they want to do that because then they can control elections. Once they know who it is that you voted for, they can punish you or reward you. So if all of the ballots are, there's no secret ballot anymore, that's what happened in Venezuela, by the way, then again, you voted for Biden, you get rewarded. You'll get whatever government jobs you want or contracts, etc., or you're going to get your student loan deferred or part of it forgiven. But if you voted for Trump, you're out. See? And that's a panic time. Once that starts happening, it's time to panic. Time to lock and load. So, again, with good old Hugh-Hewitt and the former HUD secretary, I can't remember his name, but Hugh-Hewitt, again, is not a conservative, and he's not really a lefty either. He's a zero. He just always positions himself so he has plausible deniability. If anybody accuses him of being conservative, he can say no. He can, wiggle out of it. And if anybody says that he's a socialist, he can wiggle out of that too. The problem is the middle of the road leads nowhere. And again, you end up being a zero. You have no influence over anybody or anything. So you're not going to start revolutions and you're not going to stop them. But don't let people intimidate you from the right or from the left. If the right wants to know, well, gee, are you still a Trump supporter? Hey, none of your business. Mind your own damn business. That's the right answer to that question. Dr. Carson, that's the HUD secretary, former HUD secretary, and he's created an institute. It's called the Cornerstone Institute, and it's online at thecornerstoneinstitute.com. But anyways, an issue that I'm thinking about is everybody that calls themselves a conservative, or in the case of people like Hugh-Hewitt, they call themselves center-right or whatever, is always talking about the homelessness problem. Let me explain it again. There is no such thing. There's no such thing as a homelessness problem. The problem we have in this country is with property rights. The left is not interested in the homeless. What they're interested in doing is getting rid of the whole concept of property rights. So you always notice that, and the way they're doing it is in a very clever way, by emphasizing the homeless. But the homeless don't, by definition, have no property. Okay, and there's no right to be homeless. You'll hear a lot of times people will say that homelessness is not a crime. Whenever somebody says that to you, the proper response is to say homelessness is not a right, because it isn't. But that's the way the left acts, that the homeless have rights, the property owners have none. And so what they're doing is they're bullying you into framing the argument in a manner in which you can't win. If the argument is about what is best for the homeless and homelessness, there's no way for conservatives to win the argument. We're going to end up giving away, literally giving away, our property rights. Ayn Rand identified property rights as the cornerstone of all rights. And I say it is the expectation of privacy that's the cornerstone, because that's the foundation for property and property rights. But assuming that she's absolutely correct, that property rights is the foundation for all other rights, because if you look in the Constitution, look at the first 10 amendments to the Constitution, the vast majority of them have to do with property. No illegal searches and seizures of what? Property. So, property rights are the foundation. If we're constantly having discussions and debates about not property, but say in this particular case, homelessness, and what's best for the homeless, the idea is that we will eventually forget about property and property rights, and eventually we will turn ourselves into a socialist society. That's post-Marxism in a nutshell. Marxism is what you see in Portland and Seattle and BLM, where they go out with what's called direct action. You pick up a gun and you go out and you kill somebody. You take a bomb and you blow something up. Direct action. You're instigating and you are the cause of a revolution, what you're hoping to be a revolution. You're committing crimes with the hope of having those crimes escalate to a revolution or civil war. So, but with post-Marxism, it's indirect. The idea is, with post-Marxism, that you can create perfect society and socialism in a capitalistic society by manipulating people psychologically and convincing them that what they want is socialism. And this is one of the ways they go about doing it. Socialism, nobody owns any property. Nobody owns property in socialism, in the perfect socialist society. So how do you get there? How do you get from capitalism, where we have property and property rights, to a socialist society? You have to disabuse people of the notion that they have property rights. And you do that, at least in this particular case, by emphasizing homelessness and acting as if it is the homeless that have rights, and ignoring the rights of property owners, whether it is houses or businesses. So whenever somebody wants to talk to you about the homelessness problem, you have to immediately reframe the argument, immediately reframe the debate and say, excuse me, you mean you want to talk to me about property rights? We can have a discussion about property rights, but there is no such thing as a homelessness problem because there's no such thing as a right to be homeless. Get your mind right, frame the argument properly, and you can't lose. If you're sloppy and you let the left frame the argument for you, you can't win. A couple of things from yesterday that apparently Nancy Pelosi and others on the left, they're in love with Donald Trump. I mean, that's all there is to it. Nancy is what I've heard referred to as a work wife, Donald Trump's work wife, because they just can't get enough of him. She's going to now do a commission, some kind of a committee that's supposed to investigate what happened on January 6th. And, of course, with his name will be featured prominently. In addition, there is a group of people that are going to file a lawsuit against Donald Trump. And all of this is because the left must have enemies. They cannot exist without enemies. Every left-wing organization on the planet has enemies. The Cubans, the Venezuelans, both of the Cubans, of course, is the United States of America. Venezuela, the same thing, but with the Venezuelans, they come right out and say that it's the CIA. That's every communist favorite boogeyman is the CIA. The reason things don't get done or they don't get done the way we want them to, or we haven't reached paradise yet, is because of interference from our enemies, i.e. the CIA. So that's what Nancy Pelosi is going to do. They can't have Donald Trump go away because he's too rich of a political target. He is absolutely outstanding, apparently, for them for fundraising purposes. Donald Trump this, Donald Trump that, give us money, send us money, etc., etc. And so they have to keep him around as long as they possibly can. And I'm sure that whatever shortcomings Joe has in the White House, again, is going to be blamed on the Trump administration and on Donald Trump himself. So, again, all these, don't take them too seriously. It's all what do they call it? Kabuki theater. And so don't take it too seriously. Don't get bummed out about it. Because at first, that's what I was doing. I heard about this. Oh, she's going to do this commission or whatever. And again, I'll get to that in a second. And I got bummed out. And then I thought, wait a minute, this is a good thing. Not only because it is again reflects the left's usual obsession with enemies and people that are conspiring against them, but because, remember, as I've said, the reality is they've got a year to get things done. This time next year, all of the campaigns are going to be starting in earnest for the House and the Senate for the 2022 elections. And so that means all their members are going to be out campaigning for the most part and not doing their committee assignments and voting and whatnot. So that means they got a year to get all kinds of things done. One of the biggest things they wanted to get done was to swamp the court or dominate the court or whatever they were going to do, screw the court, whatever they were going to do with the court. And that's a big process. You got to get those two. You got to get 2 more states, 4 more senators. Those are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 elections, 8 elections, whatever. Election, then approval from the Senate and approval from the House, and then get the president to sign off on it. That takes time. And then they say, oh, by the way, we're also going to do whatever else, global warming. We're going to be out tub thumping for the global warming movement. And now they got an additional thing that they've got to deal with. They're going to have now their commission that's going to go ahead and convene overdo the January 6th. That's already beat a dead horse. But again, to create an enemy. Donald Trump is the enemy. If things don't get done, it's because of Donald Trump. Because they've got to know, and Nancy Pelosi's got to know, there's no way they're getting all of this done in 1 year. And they know that they're going to have to do, if they want to keep their seats, and Nancy wants to keep her job after 2022, the only way they're going to do it is cheat their asses off. They're going to have to find a way to cheat their asses off. And again, 1 year to go, and every time they come up with something new, some new project, it means that they're just lost. I mean, they're just flailing about. Everything taken in a big picture from the left's perspective is it's the death of the left in this country. These are the death throes of the left. I mean, they're just lashing out blindly at anything and everything. Again, the idea of tearing down statues, the idea that 2 + 2 = 4 is a white construct, the fact that they're blatantly coming out now in colleges and saying that reality is an arbitrary and white construct. They haven't thought that one out appropriately either. Who's going to be the one that's going to conduct these whiteness classes? Is it going to be a white person? If so, whom? Is it going to be a black person? And again, who's going to want to do that? And if you have black people that are going to do this, then that are going to conduct these classes, more pressure on black folks. Because then they're going to have all the black leaders are going to be going to black folks and perhaps Hispanics as well and saying, are you out trying to encourage all your white friends to give up their whiteness? But again, more pressure on whom? On the left, not on me. It's not going to bother me a bit because they're going to come to me and say, hey, Ron, you need to give up your whiteness. And I'm going to say, what makes you think I'm white? And then they're finished. If they're going to win with me, they're going to have to claw and scratch for every inch. I don't know about you. Maybe you're going to give it away. Okay? Maybe you're a whore. Maybe you're somebody that falls on his back and spreads his legs at every opportunity. Good for you. You're going to get exactly what you deserve. A jillion fucking diseases. But me? My ass is going to remain virgin. And that's a promise. Because like I said, I'm going to make them claw and scratch for every inch. And nobody on the left is down for that kind of a struggle. I guarantee you. In any case, that concludes another episode of The Drill. Be honest, be smart, be beautiful. I'm Ron, and that's The Drill.